Hey guys, so where do I even start with a video about the alien serpent cults of ancient magic? Perhaps I should just say that you've been lied to. We all have been lied to. Every time that somebody's told us that magic comes from Earth, that it's all about manifesting dreams or raising your vibration, they actually left out a very crucial part. And that is the part where it actually came from elsewhere entirely. Not heaven, not hell, not purgatory. I mean, elsewhere entirely. So, before we even go deeper, let's just get one thing straight, and that is that magic at its core isn't about spells. It's also not about lighting candles or buying crystals or even actually believing in energy itself. Ultimately, magic is about contact. It is the technology of altering reality by actually altering your state of consciousness. And that can happen through various methodologies. It can happen through trance, through symbols, through sex, through fear, and also definitely through deep states of ecstasy. Now, real magic isn't about control. It's actually about the interfacing with intelligences, with currents, with worlds and energies. Sometimes these are within yourself, and sometimes they are within something else entirely. So there are actual ancient cults, documented, buried, and fragmented, that trace their origins not to gods, not to spirits, but to something that is much older: serpentine intelligences, alien forces, things that literally seeded their knowledge through ecstatic rites, through sexual possession, through dream intrusion, and also through bloodlines. And they are still here today. So, what are alien serpent cults? Let's just say that this isn't actually about ancient aliens or fake archaeology. So, it's not about any of that stuff. This is real esoteric theory that's pulled from occult documents, from grimoires, from personal experience and books that most spiritual influencers won't touch simply because they are too radioactive. Now, in the Typhonian current, a magical tradition most famously preserved by Kenneth Grant, the idea is very simple but also disturbing in a sense, because this states that magic itself did not actually originate with us humans, but actually it was transmitted like a virus or code or a seed. And now the beings who seeded it, those beings are described as serpentine intelligences. And this doesn't actually mean a literal snake or literal snakes with space helmets. It actually means consciousness, a consciousness that moves in spirals, an awareness that enters through symbols, through sexuality, and through altered states of consciousness. Now, these are intelligences that do not think like us. They do not feel like us. Actually, we don't know if they do feel. They do not prioritize human well being. And we cannot truly comprehend these forces because they go far beyond our human understanding. And as such, we can also not label them as good or as evil simply because they've transcended these labels altogether and are neither. They might not even be from space itself in a physical sense because they seem to operate outside of space time entirely. So here's where it gets really weird. Kenneth Grant, Aleister Crowley's successor, actually believed that H.P. Lovecraft's horror stories weren't fiction at all. He said that Lovecraft was an unconscious medium channeling real intelligences from other dimensions, the same ones that magicians contacted in ritual. So think about that for a moment, because now we are starting to talk about something really ancient. The old ones, Nyarlathotep, Yog-Sothoth, the elder gods, a lot of concepts that many people don't even know exists. Now, Grant claimed that what Lovecraft called cosmic horror was in fact esoteric truth, simply encoded through fiction to bypass the rational mind. And honestly, this makes a lot of sense because these forces cannot be comprehended by the rational mind at all. Now, Lovecraft himself didn't actually believe in magic, but Grant believed that magic believed in him. So, when we talk about alien serpent cults, we are actually talking about groups of humans who made direct contact with these intelligences through trance states, through sex, through death, through devotion, through madness, and all came back changed. Sometimes they came back enlightened, and sometimes they came back completely shattered. So let's talk a bit about serpents, DNA, and transmission. Why is it literally always the serpent, no matter where in history you look? The Sumerians had the Anunnaki, and the Egyptians Wajid, the cobra goddess on the forehead of pharaohs, and the Gnostics warned us of the archons, non-human forces that shape our perception. Even in the Bible, there's a serpent. The serpent is the one who gives the knowledge, not the devil, but the serpent. And even in Eastern traditions, kundalini energy is a coiled serpent energy at the base of your spine. And what does our DNA look like? Like a double helix. Two serpents that are entwined, that are sexual and winding, evolutionary. So the serpent is transmission, transformation, and also mutation. Now, in these ancient cults, and especially within the Typhonian tradition, the serpent is not just a symbol, but it is a delivery system. It actually carries knowledge. It penetrates reality through the spiral movement, through trance, through ecstasy, dreams, orgasm, language, and possession. And some magicians believe that these aren't just mythological metaphors because they believe these are real extra-dimensional intelligences, serpentine in pattern that interface with us through altered states, through breath, sex, madness, death, and orgasm. Now, serpent cults weren't actually worshipping snakes. They were actually transmitting contact using their bodies and minds as antennas for non-human intelligence. And they passed this knowledge down very quietly and secretly in bloodlines, in dreams, and in the rites that we call taboo today. So, who were they? Who were the cults, the ones that made contact, not just symbolically, but literally? Let's look at three of the most infamous branches of serpent cult workings. Some are historical, some theoretical, and some still active in underground circles today. The first one is the cult of Lamb. In 1919, Aleister Crowley conducted a ritual called the Amalantra working, a series of magical operations that were designed to open portals, portals of communication with non-human intelligences. Now, during these workings and this process, he encountered something really strange. Not an angel, not a demon, not some mythological god, but a real being with a large bald head, white insectoid eyes, and a vague serpent-like presence. And he called this being Lamb. Now, Aleister Crowley actually drew its portrait, and it looks exactly like what we now call a grey alien. Except this was years before Roswell, years before the modern alien mythos had been invented. But Crowley didn't describe Lamb as an alien. He said it wasn't even a being in the normal sense of the word being. Lamb was a gateway, a sentient vortex, a kind of psychic doorway that opened to something else, to something vast, ancient, and non-linear. And later, Kenneth Grant took this image and ran it deep into the Typhonian current. He claimed that Lamb wasn't just a quirk of ritual, but a key contact point with the serpentine intelligences that guide magical evolution. Now, for Grant, Lamb is both an entity and an interface, like an ancient sentient Wi Fi signal that you don't download because it downloads you. So, when we say cult of Lamb, we are not talking about followers of a being because he isn't a being. We are talking about magicians who used ritual to interface with transdimensional intelligence, and in doing so, actually rewired their entire magic cosmology. Lamb is not an alien, but a transmission point, an entry, a portal, a spiral, and maybe even a warning. The second cult is called the Draconian Rights. The serpent here isn't a symbol, but a force. It is a current, energy, and a presence. And within Typhonian magic and other shadow branches of Tantra, Thelema, and even Voodoo, there exist Draconian rites. These are rituals that's designed to bring the practitioner into direct contact with this current, meaning energy. But these aren't rituals for balance or for peace. These are deeply transformative assaults, rites that strip the ego, that shatter the identity, and create space for the alien intelligence to enter. So you don't just visualize the serpent, you become a host. And some of these rites involve intense, like really intense trance work. Others use sexual gnosis, breath control, sigil channeling, and even possession states. Many are actually never written down, they are only transmitted orally, or dream to dream, or flesh to flesh. And I'm sure you can decipher this one, flesh to flesh. The idea is that there are draconian intelligences, and these aren't necessarily moral or malevolent, but ancient and spiral based awarenesses that awaken in your nervous system when triggered properly. Now, some people say that these rites activate hidden strands of DNA, and others say that they open portals in the body or mutate the soul into a vessel for serpentine insight. I'd say that they do all of the above, depending on how it is approached. What's absolutely clear about these rites is that they aren't about healing. They are about becoming something else. Not God, not a monster, not Satan, but something, you can almost say something in between. Something that you can't actually label. Let's say a gray zone. Number three on our list is the night side workings. Now, most people in Western occultism are familiar with the Tree of Life, that neat little diagram with the 10 Sephirot representing ascent toward divine unity. But that is just the front of the tree because there's a backside. Behind the Tree of Life, there's another tree altogether, a shadow tree, a mirror, a distortion or mutation called the clipos, the tree of death, the broken shells, and the unbalanced forces. Now, here's the thing, that concept predates Kenneth Grant by centuries, but what he did was that he took it much further entirely. He didn't just explore the clipos, he actually mapped a hidden reality behind this clipos. And this was a dreamlike, erotic, terrifying realm of symbols, tunnels, and also sentient forces. And he called this the night side. Now, the night side is not just chaos, but living psychic territory, a shifting dimensional landscape that you can access through trance, through sigils, sex magic, dreams, and sometimes even trauma. In his book, The Night Side of Eden, Kenneth Grant described these tunnels, these paths behind the Sephirot, as zones of ingress for alien consciousness, as places where the rules of identity and logic break down entirely and something else bleeds through. Now, this is where the serpent cults really did their work. Not necessarily in temples, not necessarily in robes, but in flesh, in nightmares, and in shadow. Because in the night side, you don't ascend toward the light, you descend into fragmentation. You literally descend into the serpent's mouth and you learn from this dark. You end up meeting beings that speak not in language but in geometry, that communicate through orgasm and fear. And they don't want your worship, they want your transformation. Now, Grant believed that working with the night side was not about darkness for the sake of darkness, but actually about contacting alien intelligence through the back door of consciousness, through the spiral and not through the line. So you don't pray to the night side, you open up to it. And if you survive it, then you come back definitely 1,000,000,000,000% altered. You might notice a repeating pattern here, and that is sex. So, simply put, why all the sex? Well, that is because your body is a stargate, and orgasm, trance, and arousal, surrender, these are states where the ego collapses and the veil thins, where you are no longer you, but you are open, and that is when something else can slip in or out, or you can slip out. This is why serpent cults were almost always tantric, but not in the soft new agey way, not about eye gazing and gentle breath work. I'm talking about real, intense, forbidden, ecstatic rituals designed to break identity and merge with alien intelligence. Kenneth Grant called this sex magic the key to accessing the mouth zone, a dimension between dream and symbol and awareness, where form breaks down and actual contact becomes possible. And it doesn't necessarily only give you visions, because it rewrites you and it seeds something inside of you. So, what does all of this actually mean? It means that if magic was seeded from elsewhere, and if serpent cults weren't just primitive or mythological, but conscious transmitters of something non human, then maybe our entire spiritual history isn't actually about returning to source. Maybe it's about becoming something new entirely. And maybe that means that evolution isn't linear. Maybe it coils and it spirals. And maybe what we call awakening is actual contact. And maybe some of us are already infected. What you dream, what you channel, and what actually calls you in a ritual may not be human and may never have been, but that doesn't mean that it is evil. It's just different. If you want me to go deeper into this, into actual rituals, practices, or even personal stories of contact, then please tell me in the comments below, because we'll go as deep as you are willing to go. And if this video starts to mess with your dreams, then it's completely normal for a couple of days. Don't stress about it. I'd really recommend that all of you read Kenneth Grant, especially his Typhonian trilogy. It is simply mind-blowing, and it's not something that you read only once or twice or 50 times. It's something that you read over and over again and integrate over time. Please also like this video if you resonate with this content, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. You can also follow me on Patreon, where I share much deeper teachings and information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.